Hey guys, thanks for joining. This is Roundtable Philosophy, bringing you new podcasts every Friday. Let's get the party started. So I was listening to the radio on the way to work today, and they were talking about how girls feel, I guess, pressured to talk to dudes because there was some video of a chick walking around in a black t-shirt and jeans, and she gets catcalled by hundreds of people, and like one guy follows him or follows her for, I don't know, 5 minutes or something like that before she ever notices that he's there. And the two girls on there, one of them is an extreme feminist, and the other one I think is like mildly feminist. But the one feminist chick was just saying, yeah, you'll never understand because you're not a girl, but it really sucks being in the world, and you can't even go to the grocery store or, just walk down the street without somebody trying to harass you or whatever. And that basically you can't really say hello to a girl because your intentions aren't pure, which I thought was a really stupid statement in the first place, because I know for a fact, I experienced this in college a whole bunch. I would say hello to lots of people, and they never ever thought twice about it or didn't not want to talk. So I don't know if it's one of those rules where if you look mildly attractive, it's not creepy, but if you're not, you are considered creepy, because they try to use that argument and say, well, if the guy looks good in some way, shape, or form, then it's not a problem, but if he doesn't, then it's just weird. Or I guess maybe, depending on how he says, like, have a nice day, instead of just have a nice day, So I don't really know the difference in the two.
No, Joey, I'm pretty sure it's something like, have a nice day.
Yeah.
From what they were saying, it's more of how you say it was a big thing, right? So like when you approach someone, no matter what the words themselves are, right? If you're coming off creepy and sleazy, then you're coming off creepy and sleazy.
I mean, there's going to be some, like, bushy dudes, obviously, that are going to walk around and have no respect for women, and they just say whatever, and they're like, ooh, girl, yeah, bring that over here, you look good, and all this kind of crap. But I think the average person would not be that way. They're always talking about how maybe the reason the girl is standoffish is because maybe somebody said hello to her previously, and that somehow ended up with her being attacked or abused or accosted or whatever. And I don't really think that's necessarily the case. And just because one person did something to you doesn't mean that everybody is equally the same. You can't paint everybody with the same brush.
Amen, because I support all races equally.
In what regard?
That'd be sarcasm to say,
I figured as much.
But no, but I do understand the part, though, because treating everybody, or as you put it, as painting everybody one brush, that's the difference, though, because, that can easily be considered on a false man logic as saying, okay, well, you should treat everybody equally. But at the same time, though, that's not really logical because, let's be honest, I'm going to be a lot more friendly with Joey Barrios than I'm going to be with Charlie Manson at a Nazi regime party.
Yeah, but I think it's more about strangers, though. Right? So if someone walks up to you and you have no idea who this person is, you have nothing other than the fact they approached you, the way they look, the way they're standing, the way they're acting.
It also depends on the approach itself, though, because there is a instinctual reaction due to someone's body position, especially when it comes as far as distance, as far as your personal space, that makes your mind actually flip a switch and into response of how you interpret something that they do. It's actually a proven fact. The actual measurement, though, I believe, is when they are within, I think it's 3 feet of you, I think. I think it's 2 feet of you, actually. Like, if they breach that 3-foot barrier, your mind automatically goes on the defensive. Or not. It's actually been taught many times, actually. It's one of the few things that I can still remember from my last sociology class when I was over in Auburn, actually.
But, like, what if you're in the grocery store, right, and you see some girl that you think is cute, and you walk up to her, and, obviously you're not going to intentionally be all up in her grill, but you're on the same aisle, so it's going to stand to reason you'll be within the same proximity of one another. Basically, their point was, just because a guy says hello to you doesn't mean you are supposed to say hi back. And that the guy shouldn't be offended if the girl doesn't say hello back or doesn't acknowledge you. That you should just accept the fact that she doesn't want to talk to you and you should just move along. But I don't care if it's a guy or a girl. If I say hello to you, this happens all the time. Like, I'll be in the bathroom and be on my way out and I'll see somebody and they come in. I'll be like, hey, good afternoon or good morning. I mean, I very audibly said it and I looked directly at them and made eye contact and they just walk away.
Yes, I think that happens quite regularly, actually. And again, it also depends on social protocol, too, as well, because let's be honest, times have definitely changed, especially when it comes to greetings, among other things within the past couple of generations. I mean, like, this has been basically a sociological evolution, if you would. I mean, what was meant to be something credible or at least polite a few years ago would now be considered snarky or actually a little bit brutish, if not possibly being sarcastic, up to being contemptual.
That aside, again, go back to something Joey said. So if you approach, right, and you say hello, and it's completely non-creepy, at least you don't think it is, and the other person doesn't acknowledge your presence, doesn't acknowledge you said anything. They did word it kind of the way Joey did, where you're not supposed to be offended by that person not giving you the time of day. But I wouldn't really agree with that. I think you're perfectly valid being offended by it. What you're not really allowed to do, is, in my opinion, is take action on that and become aggressive, which is something that happens a lot in the video they're talking about.
I think that's fair. You should not retaliate because somebody isn't necessarily nice to you. I mean, if I'm in the bathroom and I'm on the way out, like there's some older guy, I don't even know his name, but I've said good morning to him twice now in the past week and a half, and he just hasn't responded. I'm just like, okay, whatever, and I just walk out the door. Like I don't say anything to him. I don't say, hey, I said hello to you or whatever. I don't confront him. I just move on. But prior to this part of the radio show, they were sharing some of the things. So apparently there's some. What's her name? Bye Felicia. That's the meme or something like that that's going around. Well, now they have Bye Felipe, which is the female version, and they were talking about conversations on Tinder. Apparently MySpace is still used for online dating and some other different sites and things.
MySpace is still used for that?
I think the internet in general, in a lot of ways, is used for dating. But yeah, apparently so. But anyway, they were sharing messages from some of the conversations, and they would be things like, so let's say you're the girl, and I say, hey, how are you? And then I wait 20 minutes, and you don't respond. And then I just go off on this 5-minute rant about how you're a whore and you must be a lesbian because you don't like dudes and you're basically a piece of garbage and should go kill yourself. Like they were all these very similar.
And that's not cool.
Yeah, it's all these very similar type structured things that these girls were screenshotting and sending in with the Bye Felipe meme thing, and the point was that basically...
Question first off, what the hell is Bye Felipe? I'm sorry, I'm running a blank on this, dude.
Well, so there's some meme, and I don't know what it is, I haven't seen it, but Brandon referenced it, and it's Bye Felicia. It's basically like a talk to the hand type picture, and I guess, the caption is Bye Felicia. I don't know what it stems from. I'd have to go look up Know Your Meme or whatever to find out the origin, but it's basically like talk to the hand, I don't want to talk to you or whatever. But the Bye Felipe is the female version for guys, so if guys were using Bye Felicia, then the girls would use Bye Felipe.
Alright, this might be dangerous, but I've got the Urban Dictionary for this one.
Oh no.
Alright, it's actually fairly tame, so, Bye Felicia. When someone says that they're leaving and you can really give two shits less that they are, their name then becomes Felicia, a random bitch that nobody is sad to see go. Their real name becomes irrelevant because nobody cares what it really is. Instead, they are now Felicia.
So yeah, basically, these girls are sending in these screenshots of these conversations, and the guys are just being real assholes. And some of them, just obviously because it's the radio, they replace the profanity with vegetable names, and just the number of times they had to say some different vegetable was just absurd. They're basically calling these girls cunts and whores and bitches and sluts and all kinds of stuff. This is really inappropriate, all because the girl just didn't respond. And they're trying to say, well, it may not be all men, but it's more than just a sliver of the male populace. It's probably like 5 to 10%. which I think is complete crap. I don't think there's that many douchebag guys in the world. I would like to think that most of us have been raised well enough to respect a female, and there's obviously going to be some that don't, but you can't say that all the guys are bad and, that all girls are bitches. I mean, it's just not true. I've experienced lots of girls that are bitches, and, I say that because, like, for example, there was this girl that I met outside of my classroom, and I had been talking to her for probably a good 20-30 minutes, and we exchanged numbers or whatever, and we had text back and forth and stuff, and we had agreed to go on a date to the movies. So I called her around noon and asked, hey, what movie are you interested in seeing tonight? I thought about these options. Do any of those sound good to you? And she said, well, I gotta go walk my dog and do some stuff, so I'll get back to you in a little bit and let you know. So I said, okay, no big deal. Well, we were supposed to go to the movies, I think, around 6 o'clock. Instead of calling and letting me know, it was well after 6 o'clock, so I was like, man, what the hell is going on? I call her, and she doesn't respond, so I sent a text, and I said, hey, I don't know if you're in the shower or something, but it's definitely well after 6. Do we need to reschedule? And she said, oh, yeah, I meant to call you earlier, but after I walked my dogs and did whatever chores and stuff I had to do, I was just tired, so I just took a nap and I didn't text you. So she's basically admitting that she blew me off, but she didn't let me know with enough time, basically saying that, I'm just not really feeling up to this, so how about we reschedule? And I was just pretty upset, but I wasn't rude to her. I was just like, oh, okay, well, in the future, it'd be great if you could communicate that at an earlier time so I can plan something with my day. I hope you have a good evening. I'll talk to you later. But I was just like infuriated and like screaming in my apartment. I mean, that's just a bitchy thing to do. And it doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl. If you know that you're not interested in doing something, then just say it. Don't make up excuses and then waste other people's time because they won't have an opportunity to plan something different. I mean, what if somebody had invited me to do something a couple of hours later and I said, well, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I have plans to go do something with somebody. And then turns out, oh, well, I don't have those plans after all. Well, I just missed out on that other opportunity. Yeah, no, this girl, I don't know. And then, I saw her days later or whatever. And, I mean, she was kind of apologetic. But I don't know if you guys experienced that kind of thing when you were in college at all. I mean, I don't know either.
It happened to me a few times, man. Like, that wasn't just the first one for me, dude. Hell, it happened to me probably, I don't know, at least 4 times probably during college, and it really pissed me off because to me it's just a real shitty thing to do to someone. If you don't want to go, then just say you don't want to go and let that be that.
But see, the thing I hear all the time is girls don't want to hurt guys' feelings. They don't want to be rude.
Shit.
And the thing is like, if you are that concerned about hurting somebody's feelings, you can just politely say, I'm sorry, something came up, let's plan something later, or I'm sorry, I don't want to go anymore. I mean, they don't necessarily have to say why, but they do owe you at least the courtesy of saying, I would like to not do this, which was one of the Bye Felipe things. Was some guy and girl were a Tinder match, went out on a date. The girl said, or the guy had said, hey, had a nice time or whatever, and then the girl said, yeah, me too, but I did some thinking last night, and I would just think it would be better if we didn't go out again. I don't think that we were compatible. And he said something along the lines of, yeah, I don't think we are either. I don't really care for fat chicks, and basically just insulted her. I don't know if this girl was overweight or not, but, he was basically being an asshole to her.
It's not appropriate. I mean, that's...
Yeah, I mean, he was just being rude to her.
She's given the behavior that you guys were specifically asking for, to be upfront and honest, right? Like, all right, it's not clicking, let's call this off. His response is, well, you're an idiot, essentially.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm sorry. Personally, I thought that was a little bit funny as hell. But then again, there's a lot of things that make me feel pretty amused. So, but
I mean, it's got comedic timing, but that doesn't make it like being a nice person at all.
Right, and that was the point.
That's aggressive. That is harassment.
Right, that's the point that they were making, is that just because the girl was trying to say, I had a nice time, but I just don't think it was a good fit. Because that actually happened to me. There was a girl that I had gone to the movies with. We had gone to dinner, and I went and hung out with her a couple of times, and we had been chatting on Facebook and whatnot, and she called me one night, and she said, I don't want to be the bad guy here, but I don't think that we're really that good of a match. There's another guy that I'm more interested in, so I don't really know the best way to say this other than what I'm saying. And I said, well, that's okay. I don't really have that much invested anyway. I do think that you're pretty cool. I enjoyed the times we got to hang out, but if you're interested in somebody else, then go for it. I'm not going to stand in the way of that. But by that point, I'd already been turned down and broken up with multiple times and rejected. It pretty much got to the point in my dating life that I looked forward to people turning me down so I could ask out the next person. I was like, well, I know if I ask 100 people, at least one person has to say yes, and if not, then I'll just ask another 100 people. There's plenty of women in the world. Somebody surely has to say yes. Persistence is key, right?
Yeah, that's only part of it.
Well, it depends on what persistence you're talking about. Trial and error is definitely a key. Bring it kind of back to the original topic, though. Getting blown off for a date or let down through basically absence of talking by being ignored.
I find it really interesting throughout my, I don't know if I'd say extensive dating history, but just some of the people that I interacted with, I think, how in the world did they even acknowledge me in the first place? Because they were just, I don't know if they were really hard up for some attention or what, but like for example, there was a time I'd gone to, well, it's Pockets now, but once upon a time when it was Bumpers, I went up there for ladies' night, and I was with a friend of mine, and we were like, well, what are we going to do? We don't have any ladies. We don't want to pay to play. Well, just then, this girl that I had English class with her mom, she came, and the girl, not the mom, with a friend of hers, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, I thought that girl was pretty cute, so I approached her, and I said, hey, you remember me? I'm from your mom's English class. She's like, oh, yeah, you're Joey, right? And I said, yeah. I said, my buddy and I would like to play some pool, but we don't have any ladies. Would you want to play with us? We'll buy you some drinks or whatever. And they said, yeah, sure. So we're playing, and I think we're having a pretty good time, but the friend of the girl and my friend, they're hanging out over just being wallflowers and just kind of chatting off and on or whatever, but just kind of, I guess, being independent, however that works, I guess. But anyway, as the night progresses, I guess they start talking about cars, and they go on, I guess, a spontaneous date in the middle of the night, driving around Auburn, racing each other or whatever, and I don't know if it was that night or a night or two later, he had gone over to her place, or she had come over to his place, one of the two, and he was trying to push things much faster than she wanted them to go, and she was like, whoa, I'm not that kind of girl, and he was like, well, no big deal, I got some chicks on MySpace I can hit up, and just kind of stopped.
Terrible timing.
And yeah, he just stopped and got on his computer. Or I guess they would have been at his place, and just got on his computer. He's like, "Oh yeah, look at all these messages I have from all these girls." And so, anyway, the girl messages me on the computer, and she had said, "Hey, do you know what happened to so and so?" And I said, "Yeah." The girl's like, hey, I don't know what happened to him. I've tried calling and texting him, and I don't know what's happening. I said, well, let me find out. And I called him and said, hey, man, what's going on? She wants to know what's up and why you're not returning her calls. And he said, well, I'm just not interested. You can go out with her if you want, but I'm done. And I thought, wow, that was really quick. I thought you guys hit it off pretty well. And so I said, well, turns out he's not interested, but I am. So if you'd like to go out sometime, I'd love to treat you out somewhere. And she said, sure, I'd really like to. And I was like, what? I wasn't expecting that to work out into my favor. And yeah, so we ended up going on a date, and it went pretty well. But the thing that sucked about my dating life is I never had a car. So anytime I went out on a date, the girl would have to pick me up. And, granted, I paid for the date. I think it still didn't help me. I didn't have transportation. And so, she picked me up. It was actually my birthday weekend. And, we went to Cheesecake Factory. Well, they didn't have any available tables, so they gave us the little buzzer thing and said it'll probably be about 45 minutes. So she said, well, come on, let's go drive around. So we hop in her car and we just drive around and listen to music and chit-chat, and we're having a pretty good time. So we come back and she drops me off to go get the table, and she goes and parks the car. And while I'm in there, they said, well, the only seating we have is out on the balcony, in the patio area. I was like, wow, that worked out pretty nice. It's a nice night. You can see the stars, having dinner at the Cheesecake Factory. We were there for about 4 hours, just having an awesome time, chit-chatting. And then we get some Oreo cheesecake for dessert and share it and have a pretty good time. And then we decide to go see a movie. And we go to the movies and we have a good time. And then she drops me off and I don't make a move because I didn't think that I needed to, or that it was really the timing to make it. Plus, I don't know, I just gotten out of a really terrible relationship. So, my first girlfriend and I had broken up at that point, and I didn't have any other real dating experience. So I didn't want to botch it. We kept talking, and we went to lunch a couple of days later and kept talking for a couple of months. And I want to say probably about a month and a half later, she had messaged me on the computer while I was gone. And I come home and I saw I came home and I saw a message from her that said, when you get back, message me. I want to talk to you. And I thought, man, she was going to tell me that she has a boyfriend now after she told me she didn't want a boyfriend. So I messaged her and she's like, yeah, so I met this guy while I was driving down the road and we're going out now. And I was like, oh, well, that sucks. Well, can we still hang out? Because I really had a fun time hanging out with you and I think you're really cool. And she was like, yeah, sure. So every Thursday we would go out. She told me that if the guy pays, that it's a date. So even though that she had a boyfriend, I would still pay for us to go out. I mean, I never made any moves. I never tried to kiss her or anything or do anything that overstepped the boundaries. But we would go eat dinner, and then we would go play pool. And we did this for probably, I guess, 5-6 months. Well, she called me one morning. It was probably about 6 or 7 in the morning on a Saturday. And she was like, hey, so I broke up with my boyfriend. And I remember I was half asleep, but my grin was literally ear to ear. Like, I thought my face was going to split in half. So I thought, yes, awesome. And so I gave it probably about a month or so. And then I started, trying to see if maybe she wanted to pursue a relationship. And she was like, no, I just want to kind of be single for a while. I just think you're a really good friend. And I was like, awesome, the F word. Now I'm doomed, I'm sucked into the friend zone and I'm never going to get out. And so I still went out with her and whatnot. But one thing I'd forgotten about was there was a night where she had called me and she said, hey, do you want to go dancing with, the girl's name was Monica and me? And so she was dating that guy at the time. I was like, I guess so. Where are you guys going? I forgot the place. Because she really liked to dance, and I still really thought the other girl was equally as appealing. And so we went, and I think I paid for all of our covers, and we went in. And I literally spent the next 3 hours in a dance sandwich. I mean, I was like the happiest dude in the world. I had the main girl I was interested in the back, the girl that I was somewhat pursuing currently in the front, and was having a fun time. I don't know how many other times I'd have that kind of opportunity, but I felt a little bad because I was like, well, I shouldn't be dancing with her because she has a boyfriend, but apparently she doesn't value him very much because she wants to go dancing with me. And so, I've never really thought about it, but I guess kind of tying that into the thing, what do you think about that situation? If a girl asks you to do something, knowing that she has a boyfriend, but she's like, well, I don't care what he thinks or whatever, what does that say in your mind?
Then you probably shouldn't date that girl.
Well, we never did date.
Then you're friends, and there's nothing wrong with it. But you need to probably establish that, especially if you were dating previously.
Well, I don't think we ever really dated. That's the thing. If you go on one date, is that considered dating?
You dated. You went on a romantic adventure.
But nothing romantic happened.
You went on the date.
But does that constitute...
Its intent from both parties was that it was intended to be romantic, right? Even if it ended up sucking and wasn't, it doesn't change the intent of the original thing. So you can't just suddenly move into friends without letting each other know that that's what's going on.
Later on, when I eventually got the name of which we shall not speak as a girlfriend, she messaged me and she's like, hey, I see you have a girlfriend now. I'm like, yeah, why, you jealous? And she's like, no. I was like, yeah, I think you are, because why are you over here hitting me up and wanting to know about this person or whatever? And she's like, I'm not jealous. I was like, okay, whatever, I really don't have a reason to talk to you because I'm tired of playing your stupid games. We go out every single week and hang out, and all you do is just tell me about, oh, well, this guy, you know, blah, 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 and this guy, blah, blah. Like, you just keep dating these assholes. You let these guys treat you like garbage. But, you know, I'm pretty much saying, like, hey, I want to date you. Date me. I'm good for you. And you're just like, no, just be my friend. And I'm like, yeah, I'm tired of doing that. I'm tired of investing all my time and getting nothing for it. Like, I don't expect sex or anything like that. But if I'm showing romantic interest, I would like something reciprocated. But you clearly just want to spend my money, and I'm not down with that.
Yeah, I'm always in favor of just saying, like, if one of the two
YOLO
people is romantically inclined, then it's really just in everybody's best interest to end it if the other one is not.
Right, and then I think I didn't talk to her for a really long time. I saw her in a coffee shop one day. I went and sat down in a chair beside her, and she turned and she was like, oh, hey, what are you up to? She seemed really surprised. I was like, not a whole lot. I just came to get some coffee with my buddy here. She's like, oh, that's cool. And we kind of caught up for a few minutes or whatever, and then I just left. I was like, bye, Felicia.
Wait, hold up. Was the same girl that was always hanging out with me or Vic over at the Bumper Nets place?
Over at the where?
Over there at Bumper Nets, or at Pockets, whatever it's called.
What girl would that be?
White girl with glasses.
That way narrows it down to, like, literally half the population.
Because I think that her name actually was Felicia, though, to be honest.
No, I never ever pursued any girl's named Felicia.
How do you feel today?
But you wish you had, though.
What, was this a girl that I was dating, or just a girl that I hung out with?
I don't know, because she was always around, or she was always invited by Victor or whatnot, so whenever we met up there.
I'm trying to think. Who would that have been?
I don't know, buddy. You tell me.
It obviously was not important.
I wouldn't say that I had a huge following of ladies, but I was just trying to be friendly, you know, and I think that for the most part I was pretty friendly, and unfortunately some ladies did not think that I was worth their time, which is fine. Obviously it worked out. I'm married now and have a kid, so I did something right. But like
a righteous kid.
Like even that in itself is an interesting story. So basically, it's summer 2010. I think we had just gotten back from visiting my aunt, we being Cameron and myself, because a friend of his lived in the same city and was getting married, so we decided to kill two birds with one stone. But anyway, we had just gotten back and we went to this party, and no, that was after that. Yeah, so it was a few days after that, there was another party, and Jeff, his girlfriend, well, it wasn't his girlfriend at the time, but it would become his girlfriend, she said, hey, we're going to have this party and we need somebody to buy drinks and stuff. Do you think you could help us out? I was like, well, come on, who are you talking to here? Of course I'll help you out. I'm pretty much one of the few people that can go into the ABC store and buy $100 worth of stuff or more in less than 30 seconds and walk out with probably 4 boxes, you know? So I hook him up.
Story of Joey's life.
I know, it was always so much fun. But anyway, I buy all the stuff, and then, you know, we go up to the party later, and I think I'd just taken a shot of Southern Comfort, and I was talking to, I think, Jeff, and I heard some girl talking to Cameron, and then I hear, oh my gosh, thank you so much, and then she hugs me and runs away, and I was like, who is this girl? Why did you just hug me? I didn't even see her face. And then it happened again. About 5 minutes later, I heard her coming in being all loud and drunk. Hey, it's him, it's that guy. And she comes over there and she's like, oh my God, thank you so much, you're so nice. And runs away. And I'm thinking, who is this girl? I don't get it, you know, but whatever.
Who in the root of who are you?
And so the next day I get a Facebook friend request. I was like, who's this Kelsey person? And so I start talking to her.
Here's a question. If that had been reversed, if you'd been doing that to a random girl, would that have been harassment?
Probably.
Yeah, but the problem, though, is guys view harassment very different than girls do, though. Also, the fact is, you have to get the interaction between guys versus girls, though. It takes a lot to actually get underneath our skin or to actually truly bother us. Whereas girls, not so much, depending on the issue at hand. Guys are very physical just kind of naturally, usually, but girls really aren't. So you gotta look at the aspect of how that interplays as well. Like, I'm just calling it the way I see it, though. I mean, hell, the way you said right now is that Kelsey, that hell, if she had done that, you wouldn't have given 2 shits. You'd be kind of like, oh, okay, well, that's cool.
Well, she did do that.
whereas if it was a girl, not so much.
Right. I mean, it is a pretty valid point, because I feel like when guys are being, we'll call it friendly. If the girl knows them, I don't think it's so much an issue versus just total strangers. But yeah, I think if you're in college and some drunk girl comes up to you and is like hi and hugging you and everything, and I mean you're just like whatever. There was one night I was with Brad and we had been at the intersection of Toomer's Corner, and there was a girl that staggered out of Bodega, walked up to his car and knocked on the window and asked us, can we give her a ride to her friend's house because they abandoned her and she didn't know how, she was just visiting there. She didn't know how to get to where they were. She just knew like where they lived, but she had no way to get there. So she walks up, knocks on the door of a car with two guys she doesn't know, and gets in the car.
That's poor judgment right there.
Actually, I'm going to say that's just Auburn, though, to be honest, though.
But that's a lot of college towns.
Auburn still has crime and assault, and sexual assault is one of the largest crimes in Auburn, so that's still really poor judgment.
I think it's any college town, really. I mean, we can say Auburn because we went there, but I mean, go to any major school and look at the number of sexual crimes and things that are reported.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty low crime rate in Auburn, I'll give you that, but it's not like crime doesn't happen, though.
But again, you have to look at sexual assaults in general, though, because, hell, according to, people who actually do the studies and whatnot, though, there's also only about 1 in every 5 women who actually report an actual sexual crime like that happening in the first place. The way I am, dude, like, I'm not giving you straight up facts or whatnot, though, regarding a certain issue. And if I see that there are more facts that need to be disclosed, then I will disclose them. But I like having a little bit of credibility when it comes to making assumptions, much less actual knowledge to be made public.
Well, one thing I know that's truth is I was at a DTD party, and I was with this girl that I knew, and this guy who I also knew, he basically was trying to take the girl that I came with back to his room in the house, and she didn't want to go. And I just grabbed her, and I was like, come on, we need to go. And so we left or whatever, and so we had to walk back to her place, because she lived around the corner from me in a different apartment, and so we were walking a good ways down Glen Avenue to get back to her apartment. She was like, well, thanks for not letting me stay there. That was a good choice. And I was like, yeah, pretty sure it was a good choice considering that guy was drunk out of his mind and you pretty much kept saying, I don't want to be there, but then you want to fight with me whenever I try and get you out of the situation. Like, I can't leave in good conscience knowing that you're there and you really don't want to be there. That's just not a wise move. She's like, yeah, I know, I'm just drunk. And I was like, yes, I'm aware exactly why you don't need to be there. If you want to go back there while you're sober, that's perfectly fine because then you can have a rational conversation with somebody. But when two people are blasted drunk, no good decisions are being made at that point.
Yeah, I guess sometimes it is difficult to tell, and that's why I don't play, or at least historically, I'm married now, but I've never played with the hard to get game. Like, you say no, it's over, done. I don't care if it's like 10 no or anything. Hard to get game is ridiculous and just makes things even more confusing and then creates gray areas. If alcohol or any other type of substance like that is involved and judgment's impaired, I mean, it just doesn't end well, ever. Like, even if it ends well, you go through this period where it's extreme gray area and everybody's freaking out for half a minute.
Yeah, there was a time where we all went to Pockets, and Nate's there, and a couple other people that we know. We all come back to my apartment. We're hanging out. One of the people leaves, and so it's just Nate, myself, and the two girls or whatever. I think one of the girls decides to leave, and then Nate leaves. Well, this girl is really, really drunk, and so I said, well, if you want, I'll sleep on the couch. You can crash on my bed. I never sleep under the covers. I always just pass out on top because I don't want to make the bed and I'm lazy. But feel free to tuck yourself in or whatever. I'll just sleep on the couch. That way you don't have to worry about trying to get back home. Because she didn't really have a way to get home. Her friend drove her, and I don't know where her friend had gone. I pass out on the couch, and I wake up, and I felt this really big draft of cold air. And this girl is laying in the floor with no pants on, but she has underwear on, and her lower half of her body is hanging outside my front door. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, what's happening? My pants are still on. I run over there and I shake her. I'm like, hey, wake up, wake up. And she's like, huh, what's up? Like, come on, get out of the door. And so she gets out of the door and I shut it. I was like, what happened? Why are you in the door half naked? She's like, I don't know. Last thing I remember, I was just laying in the bed and I was like, well, either somebody moved you or you got up because I laid on the couch and I have no idea why you have no pants on. And she's like, oh, they're like over here in the floor somewhere in my bedroom. And so like later on that day, I had seen in that group of people, and the guy was just like giving me hell or whatever, and was like basically trying to say that I raped her. And I was like, whoa, first of all, I never touched her. Second of all, my pants are still on, and I was asleep on the couch, and she was passed out in a completely different room. So I think it's hard to rape somebody when you're over 100 feet away from each other. I found her laying halfway in my door of my apartment, and I have no idea how she got that way, because when I went to bed, the door was locked. So somebody had to have unlocked it. There was only 2 people in that apartment. Guess it was her, because I didn't unlock it. So I don't know if maybe like she had gotten hot or something and took off her pants, and I don't know, dude, but it was a really like somewhat scary situation to be in, because
yeah, creepy as shit.
You know, I mean, it could easily be taken in a bad way. And so that guy just kept on and on and on about saying how I had raped her or something. And Nate was having a little get together at his apartment that night. When I tried to come over there, that guy wouldn't let me come in. And so they ended up getting into a fight later on. He punched him in the face. Yeah, we didn't hang out with that group of people anymore, because he was like, that's just way too much drama, dude. Like, I know you wouldn't do something like that, and I know that you didn't do anything, so he just needs to shut his mouth before he gets another fist across the face.
Wait, so this make sure, this is freshman year you said?
I never said it was freshman year. This was long after. This was probably, I don't know, I was a super senior, so it was probably midway, somewhere between like my 7.5 year stint. So
so this is over when you were living with Cameron then, over there at Cover Beach.
No, I lived it with Cameron the last year in school, so this is probably back in 2007-ish. But the point is that was a situation that could have easily, and she even told people, you know, that were questioning her or whatever, he didn't touch me. Nothing ever happened. Like, there was nothing that went on at all. Like, he was a complete gentleman, essentially. But, you know, how many guys would have been like, oh yeah, this chick's passed out, let me just hit that? Have you ever seen Kids?
Kids?
I've never known anyone that would have done that. At least that I wouldn't have thought would have done that.
I don't either.
As far as people that I know that would have done that, I can think of probably a few. But then again, like people overall that I know, there are a lot of people I know from high school that were not the best people. But as far as people from college, I probably would say close to, there's probably about 7 guys probably that I know that probably would be a little bit creepy about that part.
Well, I can remember my second girlfriend, whenever we met, I had randomly found her on Facebook while having a conversation with a coworker about how we could use Facebook as a dating site.
And back when you could still use Facebook as a dating site.
Yeah, exactly. And
Stalkbook.
Yeah, Stalkbook. That was legit Stalkbook. And
everybody's classes, man.
Yeah, exactly. So I messaged her, and I was like, hey, how do you know this guy? And we kept talking and back and forth, and then eventually we exchanged numbers and everything, and she had agreed to come over on Labor Day. She told me I'll be over there around 10 o'clock. Well, 10 o'clock rolls around, I get a message, hey, I'll be there at noon. I'll be there at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, she doesn't come over until about 6 o'clock that night or whatever. I'm getting just progressively anxious and worried that she's not going to come over. So I think it's probably about noon when I start drinking heavily. Like, I'm just downing every ounce of booze I have in my apartment, because I was like, well, and I can remember when she finally came to my apartment, she knocked on the door, and I remember opening it, and I had like the biggest smile on my face because I was just so drunk, and I was happy to see her. Yeah, needless to say, within probably about an hour of her being there, things got heated very quickly, and then I was just thinking to myself, wow, I definitely wasn't planning on any of that happening, but I guess the liquid courage and whatnot definitely helped things out. But, you know, it was funny because, you know, we'd only talked for probably 2 or 3 months, and that was like the first time that we had met, and it just like makes me wonder, what is it with people that they know each other barely at all, and you know they're getting intimate very quickly, and then they either keep doing it until it doesn't work anymore, or it ends up very poorly. Because I mean, you always hear these stories about, you know, these girls that go to meet some guy somewhere and then they never are heard from again, or you know, they end up at the bottom of a river or something like that.
Bottom of a river?
Well, I mean, you gotta do something with the body, right? Like, how many stories do you hear about girls that go to meet a guy somewhere or go over to some guy's house and then they end up dead and in the woods or some body of water or, you know, in another state or county or something?
It shows up in the media every so often, about as often as a serial killer.
Yeah, and on the same radio show that I was listening to, it was probably about a month ago, there was a girl that had met a guy. Actually, there was 2 different stories. So one girl met a guy, I think on Tinder. They talked, and they agreed to go on a weekend trip together 10 hours away. They They have never met each other or known each other prior to the handful of conversations that they had, and she went with him on this trip, and she said nothing happened, and they pretty much didn't even really talk the whole time, so they literally drove like 20 hours round trip in silence. Well, she was pretty lucky that nothing happened, and then this other girl met a guy, and he wanted to go camping.
That's an awkward date.
He wanted to go camping with a bunch of other people where there was going to be alcohol and guns on some land somewhere that she didn't even know where it was, with people that she didn't even know. And she thought it was a good idea.
Grow, like, even if you've never met the person, right, so online relationship, whether it's friendship or romantic, whatever, you learn to trust the person to a certain degree. There's some types of cues where, you're pretty certain that it's not creep factor or whatever, it's not something various, and sometimes there's things that unsettle you, right? The reality is, I mean, percentage of the people you're going to interact with online, I think you're going to have just about as good of a percentage of finding someone that's basically a serial killer or equivalent there as you would just meeting people in bars or anywhere else.
So, like, let's say that you meet a girl on Tinder and you guys talk for 3 days and you decide to go on a camping trip, but let's just say that you're told there's going to be a big group of people there's going to be lots of alcohol and lots of guns. You don't know this person and you don't know where the land is or how far away it is. As a girl, why would you go with the guy?
That's putting a whole lot of trust in someone you've never met.
Exactly, and she didn't think that there was a problem with it. Some girl called in and said, if you go, you're going to end up dying. But one of my good friends did the same thing. There was a guy that she met on campus at some event or whatever. They talked for about 3 days, and he wanted to go on a camping trip, and he took her to the woods, and he raped and killed her.
Kind of a progression there.
Yeah.
You should at least be wary, right? Like, at that point, like, you should have found some way, either independently find other people that know this person or know of the person, or, at a minimum, meet somewhere highly public and go on a first date. You don't really, start by your first real interaction being committing to guns and a bunch of people you don't know in the woods.
Yeah, exactly. The guy had said something about, there's going to be other girls there too, but she didn't know any of these people at all. So there was absolutely no way that she had any idea of what she was getting herself into, and she thought it was a really good idea, and I think that is really poor judgment. Yeah, it sounds exciting because you're being spontaneous or whatever, and you're doing something fun, but I mean, if you've known the person for 3 months, and you guys have been going out on dates, or you've been hanging out in person, having conversation, getting to pick up on their sense of humor and how they react to things and their personality, I would say, okay, sure, no big deal. But 3 days, and then there was some lady that called in and said, yeah, well, I did the same thing, and I've been married to my husband for 15 years. I was like, okay, I don't really think that that's true, but sure, we'll roll with that. But still, the bottom line
I want to say, fine, you got lucky. Honestly, it probably you're more likely to have that be a legitimate thing than not. Still, it seems like you should at least exercise some extreme caution in that kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly. And there was that story about those elderly people from, Marietta, that went to go meet that guy for the car, and the guy killed them.
The recent Craigslist killer thing.
Yeah, exactly. And those people obviously had lots of life experience, and the guy thought, I'm just going to get a cool car, but he ended up getting murdered instead.
That actually triggered, I don't know if you know this, but Woodstock can now use the police station for Craigslist exchanges.
I mean, as you should, because there's just way too many sketchy people. I mean, hell, Ryan and I went and met some guy up in Shorter to get a GPS, but we met at a gas station, and Ryan was with me, and there was daylight and lots of people around.
Daylight, parking lots, lots of people. Be armed, never hurt, especially if you're openly armed, may creep the other person out to the point that they don't want to.
But yeah, I think that girls should use a lot of caution. They should be a little bit smarter with the choices that they make with the people that they choose to hang out with. And just because it sounds like an exciting adventure and a good idea, I think if you give people enough time and you're able to actually get to know them, you can have a fun time and not worry about becoming a skin jacket.
Yeah, it's not even just girls, that's everyone, especially if you're doing online connection.
They call into the radio all the time saying, I told my mom and my closest girlfriend where I'm going and gave them the contact info and the address and everything. Well, that's fine that they have that stuff, but guess what? That doesn't stop the guy from raping and killing you. I mean, yeah, it's great that you told them where you're going to be and how to get in touch, but that doesn't stop the person from doing something bad to you.
I always say semi-public area, not public area. Then you get into the issue with the fire effect. If there are enough people around, no one will act if something seems off.
I forget what the hashtag was that they were using, but it was something along the lines of not just saying hi or not just hi or whatever.
More than just hello.
Yes, that's the one. More than just hello. So the bottom line is, don't be more than just hello.
Yeah, well, the more than just hello is the catcalling thing. It's not online hookups. That's walking down the street and being everywhere from nice, unexpected greetings to being stalked by some creeper.
So what are your final thoughts so we can wrap this up?
I liked that they, at least on the radio show, they finally kind of got around into the idea that perfectly fine to say hello. Try not to do it creepily. It's a little socially awkward, so that can't be helped sometimes.
That's right.
At the same time, that person you are approaching, they have every right to completely ignore you. And you have every right to get pissed off about that. What you do not have the right to do, take action on it. Right? You can't get aggressive. You can't start calling them names. You can't start chasing them down or whatever. Don't insult them simply because they ignored you. Now, if they insult you, maybe that's a different story. But ignoring you should not always be considered an insult.
I would definitely agree with that. Ryan?
I would say that ignoring is probably more synonymous with today's culture, really. I mean, to be honest, who actually has manners within today's culture anyway? I mean, as far as how that goes, it's like I was saying earlier, man. Like, we're looking at things from what we understood from what might have been a better generation 20, 30 years ago. And people still said hello to each other and waved to each other when neighbors actually knew who the hell their other neighbors actually were and such. Whereas now,
A little more trusting.
most people that live in neighborhoods now, they don't even know who their neighbors are. That's how things are now. It's really odd seeing things now as opposed to when I was growing up, to be honest. A lot of things that we could do when I was growing up as far as interacting with girls that now it would look kind of a little bit creepy as hell, but back then it actually was pretty normal.
I mean, unless you're playing Silence of the Lambs in your backyard, I think you're okay.
You ever seen the original War of the Worlds?
No.
I think it was War of the Worlds. The one where the UFO lands in Central Park or whatever. Dude gets out and walks around. Then like the Sentinel thing comes out and guards the UFO. Anyway, whichever movie that was. Maybe it was the 40s version of Coaches. It was black and white. I watched that a year or two ago and was completely taken aback by the fact that this stranger comes in, goes into this hostel or bed and breakfast, we're going to call it, where he rents a room. Nobody knows who this guy is. And this kid, who is like the son of the owner of the B&B, at one point, they just let him go out with this random stranger, this random patron, and roam around New York City together. That would never happen. If that was put in a movie, it would get the worst reviews ever. It'd just be so unrealistic that anyone would, let their child do that today.
So remember, hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your husbands, because they're raping everybody up in here. So that's our show. Hopefully we entertained you well enough. If not, let us know and we'll do a better job next time. If you're interested in following us on the web, you can find us at our Facebook page, facebook.com/Roundtable Philosophy. You can follow us on Twitter. The handle is RT Philosophy. Or if you want to read our blog and get the podcast, go to roundtablephilosophy.com. Thanks, guys.